In 1919, he hit 29 home runs and was sold to the New York Yankees.
A three-run home run for Buffington. The Yankees now lead it by a score of 3-2.
Bill Lee is now going over to a couple of the Yankees, and there they go again.
Hits it to deep left. That might send the Yankees to the World Series.
Varitek and A-Rod going at it. Roberts is going. Posada's throw. Roberts safe.
And what can I say? Just tip my hat and call the Yankees my daddies.
Welcome to Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports, episode 88. John Senecal and myself, Brian Shackman, and we are at a point in the season where the Red Sox season is seemingly over. The Yankees season feels crappy right now, even though they're still up by like 10 games. And so I think we should start with the Yankees because they've played terrible, yet they're still in, a great position to make the playoffs. And the question is, I don't know where to start, John. Like, when do you start to get really nervous, or are you already nervous?
Well, I mean, I talked about this before, Brian, is, their bullpen and the fact that, Aaron Judge cannot carry this team. We figured this out real quick, right? He cannot single-handedly carry this team. So I was nervous all along about the starting pitching. We knew Cole's going to do Cole things, and yes, I am worried. I am worried that they are not who they were this whole season. Listen, if these injuries are going to keep persisting, like, we lost Matt Carpenter. He says he's going to be back, but listen, if it could be too late, right? A guy comes back, he might not be the same player, right? Giancarlo Stanton, who knows what's going on with him? Anytime I hear something wrong with your foot or Achilles or plantar fasciitis, whatever, like, I don't like that because you see how he is. He's like, he doesn't even step when he swings. He's all just legs and like just muscle. You know what I mean? Right. So I worry about that. I worry about the pitching. I worry about the experience in the bullpen. I had talked about that before, and that's shining through. The Yankees are very, very vulnerable. Now, given the lead they had, yes, the lead they had has given them a huge cushion, and actually, Baltimore playing the way Baltimore has played is going to help them too, because it's jacking up the rest of the teams that are fighting, to come up and go after the Yankees. But yes, Brian, I am worried about the Yankees, and I've said this before in the last couple episodes, and they are not the best team in Major League Baseball. No. We know that. They're not the best team in New York.
They don't have the best record. Let me just put a bookmark there for you for a second, because They do have a weaker record than the Mets, and that is stunning. And now the Dodgers are runaway the best record in all of baseball. But when we talk about the Yankees, and the truth is, like, Carpenter, even if he comes back, will not be able to help them the way he had. It's almost like he would need another spring training.
Exactly. And is he the difference maker?
Well, he's the kind of guy, though, that I feel like you pinch hit or bring somebody in the fifth or sixth inning, or I just feel like he's the kind of guy that doesn't get nervous about being in certain spots. So I think he has the potential to hit make some dramatic plays. But
the problem with losing him is he exposed a huge hole that we knew was there all along, and that's Aaron Hicks, because now Aaron Hicks is forced to play more. Yep. And you lost your left-handed bat, and Aaron Hicks is terrible. He can't hit left-handed. He can't hit right-handed. He's just bad. He's your next step in the Joey Gallo process, which Joey Gallo hit a 3-run homer for the Dodgers to help win the Dodgers, a pinch hit 3-run homer. So you know what? Good for Joey Gallo, but I mean, I'd be surprised if Joey Gallo's on the postseason roster for the Dodgers. But anyways, going back to the Yankees, what you were talking about, it's Matt Carpenter is a loss, but the bullpen is what scares me. The bullpen, it wasn't experienced with Holmes on the back end, and losing Michael King was just a major crushing blow to the Yankees. You hope Zach Britton can come back, and you hope some of these guys can step up, but I feel like every night it's either Wandy Peralta or Albert Abreu giving up a run and blowing it for the Yankees.
Here's the bottom line, is that the reason why Carpenter is such a big loss, and the reason why Stanton needs to get back right away, is that the only way they're going to win the World Series is to out-hit people.
Yep. And so, protect Judge.
Yeah, but I mean, that's all about offensive production, because they need to go into late innings with cushion. Mm-hmm. And so if they don't have, so that's why I think Carpenter's a big loss, because either he gets pitches that, either he gets good pitches because the pitchers don't have anything left, or, you have to respect him to the point where you spread the wealth around, and so Judge and Stanton get some decent looks at stuff. But the bottom line is, if Stanton can't come back and be at the top of his game, they are not going to win.
No.
And so that is my, and again, like I'm trying to get more decisive with my thoughts on this, and I really come to that realization that as an amazing season as Aaron Judge has had, and we'll talk about him in a few minutes, they're not gonna beat you on pitching.
No.
And so they have to beat you on hitting, and they can't be an offensive force without Stanton.
No, without Stanton and without a healthy Rizzo. And listen, regardless of those key players, you still need other players in your lineup to perform and get the key hit. And the Yankees don't have that right now. They haven't had that all season. They've been relying on those players we talked about.
They're the worst team 30 games over 500 that I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it's scary because, they're not, like you said, Brian, they're not going to match up with anyone in the postseason as far as the Mets pitching or the Dodgers pitching. I mean, Jesus, the Dodgers have got a bunch of no-names that are vying for the Cy Young, and they got guys that should be winning the Cy Young kind of come back from injury.
Well, listen, I mean, I saw Carrasco pitch well for the Mets the other night, and they have Scherzer.
Well, the Mets are so deep in pitching, it's insane.
DeGrom. I honestly think that the two best teams in baseball are in the National League, and when the Mets are playing well. I mean, they've had some runs where they weren't, but that was mainly because DeGrom and Scherzer weren't.
It's all health.
Weren't there.
Comes down to health.
Yeah, and the Dodgers are fully loaded. He's John Senecal. I'm Brian Shackman. This is episode 88 of Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports. And in the Red Sox, you have a situation where. And there's incredible frustration. I will share with you the best take I heard on this came from former Sox Lou Merloni.
Lou Merloni, baby.
Yeah, because he's in the media in Boston, and he's pretty good. I mean, I think that sometimes he's really good, and sometimes he's very average. But his point was basically like, look at the teams in Major League Baseball who are paying the luxury tax, and every single one of them except the Red Sox is either in a playoff spot or right on the edge. And the point is that if you're going to pay the luxury tax and not be competitive, don't pay the luxury tax. And his point is if what were you going through your mind on the trade deadline? If you're not going to try to compete, then you do have to sell it. And my point is, like, I get the point. Like, if you're not going to try, then you might as well be smart economically. So they don't dump Eovaldi, they don't dump Martinez. They're over the threshold, and it's going to hurt them. I didn't know all these knock-on effects about future costs and future draft picks and all this other stuff, but it's really stupid to have a non-competitive team paying the luxury tax because it hurts you for future competitiveness. So, when I think of the management of the team, I think Chaim Bloom, I think he's got a lot of talent. He's super smart, but I think we saw the first, and now that I'm looking at this in hindsight, the first example really of his inexperience. He froze on the trading deadline. He couldn't make a decision, so he hedged, and they're getting smacked for it, right? Because why do if you trade Christian Vasquez, why not just trade everybody?
Right.
And because what's the point? You can't do that and then not do anything. And so now you have a team who's not good, and they throw Darwinson Hernandez, who's got an ERA of over 20, and you got a guy who I like. I have nothing personal, who's not a major league starting catcher, and you let go of a guy who's been in the franchise for over a decade, and everybody loved him. So it just the frustration for me. Forget about the fact that going to the ballpark stinks. There's Braves fans cheering. The game's over and there's cheering, and forget about the fact that they have the JV team. I mean, just the whole point was to get them in Tampa Bay Ray mentality, where they have tons of prospects and they're going to be able to balance it out to make a run where they'll have a few league minimum guys, a few arbitration eligible guys, and a few free agents, the way the model should be to compete every year. But then they're going to spend millions of dollars for a crappy team.
Yeah, it's interesting as far as the trade deadline went with the Red Sox, and
they did a terrible job.
Yeah, they did a bad job. I mean, as far as bad as the Yankees, looking how they messed things up, the Red Sox, as far as like their standings go, they did do a bad job.
I'm not trying to be a hypocrite. I would have been pissed if they traded everybody. I would have come out with a hot take.
Well, I mean, when you say everybody, they weren't going to trade Devers, and I think
no, or Bogarts. But my point is, like, if they traded Eovaldi and JD. But if you're Vasquez, I would have been upset. But the bottom line is, I would have at least been able to. There would have been a thesis surrounding it, a cohesive understanding of what was happening. Here, there is no understanding of an approach.
Yeah, if you're going to trade Eovaldi and Martinez at the trading deadline, regardless, I mean, if you know you're not going to compete, you're not going to miss those guys. They're not fan favorites. They're replaceable. I mean, JD's very one-dimensional. Eovaldi's one pitch away from his next Tommy John.
So I do like Eovaldi a lot.
But listen, the Red Sox are in a very interesting place because they have. I don't think they're paying for Hosmer, are they? At least this year.
No, they're not paying at all.
But at all.
At all
for his next 2 years, right? I think he has like 2 more years on his contract.
They owe him like $1 million out of 44.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So listen, they should be happy about that because Hosmer can still produce, and he's a decent fielder, right? He's an upgrade at first base right now.
Absolutely.
But the interesting situation that the Red Sox are in is they have Chris Sale, who's Mr. Glass, who could opt out of his contract, and he should, and to do the Red Sox a favor and maybe renegotiate or go on a 1-year flyer and leave the team. But you also have Bogarts who can opt out, who is interesting because you wonder about the market for a guy like Bogarts because Trey Turner is going to dominate the shortstop market, and we saw what happened with Carlos Correa last year, and he's not exactly wowing people in Minnesota, that's for sure. So he's in a very interesting spot. So really what you're hanging on to is the hope that Rafael Devers is happy and he will stay in Boston. And as you would say it, please say it Heim Bloom because you do it so much better than I do.
Heim Bloom. Yeah. That's a Jewish
and you hope
thing,
that right, exactly. But you hope he gets his together and signs a player like Rafael Devers and doesn't let him go.
But wait, let me just put a positive. But you can look at it in the other way is that there's no way they would have known that they were going to get Hosmer, right? That sort of just happened.
But it's better than what they were going to get.
Right, but my point is, like, if you had kept Vasquez, Hosmer landed on your lap, all you need to do is make a couple of tweak deals, and then you're humming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, they were basically, once you get Hosmer, if you have Vasquez, you just need an upgrade in the outfield and maybe a reliever. So that's 2 players. And then, listen, they weren't going to win the World Series anyway, but that would be 2 players. All they would need was some help in the bullpen and an outfielder who was competent. And Pham has shown that, I mean, I don't know if he can sustain it, but he's certainly his first time in Boston so far has been really good. And then you're a wild card team. Right, I mean that's the nuance there, but I can't totally blame them on that one because Hosmer just it came out of the clear blue sky.
Yeah, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, Jesus, it'd been great if Carpenter got hurt a week earlier and we could have fixed it at a trade. Right. So
and Sale,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, let's talk about Sale real quick. I mean, I almost feel like it's on purpose. I know it's not on purpose, but it feels like it's on purpose. That I feel like he's one of those classic guys that is going to have all these problems and then he's going to put it all together for the final year of his contract, pitch great, and then go somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, right. I just feel like that's what's going to happen, although he does have an extra year on the deal, so the thesis doesn't totally work. But I don't understand. He's a professional athlete, and I guarantee you there's got to be more to the story. I do a couple triathlons. I know I ride my bike all the time. For you to hit something and get thrown, you're either not focused or you're going too fast.
Or you're Joe Biden.
No, Joe's 79. But you know what I mean? Like you're not just if you're riding your bike, going from A to B, and you're a pro athlete, you can't tell me you're going to fall and break your wrist. You're either texting somebody or going too fast or messing around. And so and listen, that's what makes me so mad about this stuff. It's the same with Tatis Jr. It's like. I don't understand why these athletes can get away with irresponsibility. You're making $30 million a year, take an Uber. I mean, if you're going to ride a bike, don't be an idiot.
Yeah. Or don't go riding dirt bikes and what's in Tatis's point. But listen, here's the deal with Chris Sale. Chris Sale is 33 years old. He has been banged up a lot of his career, and he's got a lot of miles on a real ragtag, lanky body. Chris Sale's ship has sailed, man. It really has. I think he's toast. I think he's toast.
You think he's done for good?
Yeah, I mean, he might get lucky and come back and be one of those guys, like you said, that throws a little bit something together, but he's never going to have any more longevity. It's a lot of miles on that arm, Brian. He's 33 years old, and it's a left-handed, really non-built pitching-looking guy. You look at pitchers nowadays, man, they don't look like Chris Sale.
Well, hey, That's true, but he's only pitched 48 innings in 3 years.
It only cost you $90 million.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Just absolutely nuts. Let's quickly go through 2 items up for bid here. You mentioned Aaron Judge, how he himself can't carry the team. But his performance this year, and I chart it like I chart gas prices. I really do. I know he had that 52 home run season in 2017, and so he already has the second most, home runs and second best production that he's had in his career. And I'm just curious as to how you put in perspective his season, but also like how badly they need to keep him.
So I look at it this way, as far as Aaron Judge, when you're watching him. So I was at the stadium like a week ago, and clearly people come to see him play. Right, he DH'd that game, and people weren't as happy as when he plays right field, because when you go to the stadium and Aaron Judge is in right, it's quite an experience. He interacts with the fans and everything. But that being said, what we're watching as Yankee fans and as baseball fans in general, obviously we have not seen since 98 was it, with Sosa and McGuire, and then again with the Royd brothers. So him doing something historic and so-called clean, and doing something that would break a Yankee record and a non-tainted MLB record is something that is very special, right? And you want that to happen. But at the same time, you feel like it's all going to be lost if the Yankees don't win the World Series and Aaron Judge doesn't stay. Now, do 2 of those go hand in hand? If they don't go and they don't win the World Series, does Aaron Judge walk? I don't think Aaron Judge leaves no matter what. Aaron Judge is just punching his card every day in every game, right? He's already proven that he can get whatever he wants in his contract. It's just a matter of if he's staying in New York. But what worries me is that historic season could be really lost with the fact that the Yankees might just fall apart towards the end.
Well, you know what, I'm not trying to pile on because I'm a Red Sox fan. It feels like that's what's going to happen.
Well, that's why I say it. I mean, I've watched baseball long enough in general and watched a ton of it, and the Yankees long enough to know when the vibes start happening and you start seeing stuff and it's just not going right. Like when they don't start talking about players coming back, it's not just because like they have a 10-game lead. It's because there's something wrong with them.
Yeah. I mean, I think then again, I mean, we've seen it in baseball because baseball is different than, maybe, 20 years ago when we were younger. You can get hot at the right time, and that can make all the difference. So, I mean, they can flip the calendar into September and just be guns blazing. This will be a different conversation. You talk about flipping the switch. I want to talk about the Orioles. Now, listen, I have to tell you, because we talked to Willie Yan. I mean, and we talked to Willie Yan about Adley Rutschman, and what he said was stunning to me. And I was even following the Orioles before that. I just liked them. I mean, I like Mancini. I like a couple of guys on their team. Who's that other guy who?
Mountcastle, Austin Hayes.
Yeah, like Mountcastle. That's it. Mountcastle's a guy I like. And so when Rutschman came up and then Willie Yan had those comments about him, I was really laser focused on the team. And then I went and looked at it. Now, this is before he became an everyday player, but I just went back to May 21st when he first got called up or made his first appearance in a game. And he didn't become the everyday catcher he flip-flopped. He didn't play every day at the start. But that team, since he got called up in late May, is 42-28.
Wow.
Now, and they were in last place when he got called up. And we, to see one person have that kind of impact, because I think he's the one that's turned that season around. And they traded their closer and Mancini, and they're doing better.
Yeah.
And I think he's not the reason, but I do think that if you're 24 years old and you can catch and call a game with confidence and you're that good, you can make that kind of difference. And it seems like it's sort of his team. And I hate to say it, but I am into the Orioles. I think it's great when they're good. Camden's awesome when 40,000 people are there. And this kid, and I got to tell you, the podcast, we were kind of ground floor on him because, I mean, you remember what Willie Yan had to say about him.
Yep. Yeah, the thing about Adley Rutschman is, he came out of college as a huge pick, right? And he was basically tabbed as the next player for the Orioles, right? And the thing about him is he probably could have started for the Orioles if they had a 2020 normal season and the minor leagues weren't washed, because he was that good.
So this is a year overdue, you think?
Yeah. But the thing is the Orioles weren't good. So they didn't rush him. You know what I mean? They played it safe with him. But it's clearly showing that he is a mature player because he went to college and he's a very respected player. And, he's homegrown. There's some pride taken in that. And it's truly amazing what's happening in Baltimore because when you lose a player like Trey Mancini, and I can't believe they traded him to the Astros. I really can't believe that.
It's such a bummer.
It's insane. And he's such a great player. And for a guy like him and the connection that he has with that city and that team, it just blows my mind. And
trading him is like similar to the Vasquez trade.
I think it's bigger than Vasquez. I really do. I think it's bigger than Vasquez, and I really hope it doesn't totally come back to bite him in the ass. But I don't think the Orioles are going to win the World Series. I don't think. But it is good for baseball to see that and to see a different look and not the same old teams. But that again, they'll point to it. Oh, expanded playoffs, and this is what we want. So MLB is probably hoping that they make a run for it and they get in there and they push deep into the playoffs. But again, Adley Rutschman, he kind of reminds me of is a Buster Posey vibe.
Yes. He's not so super huge, and he's got this sort of quiet confidence, and he just sort of comes in as a leader. I think it's a great comp. And listen, have you been to Camden?
Yes, many a times. One of my favorite parts. I have been there a bunch of times, and because Bobby Dickerson was a coach there for many years, and we've been on the field. And Matt Wieters was the guy before Adley Rutschman came, and they had a little bit of buffer in between with some guys here and there. But he was a big fan favorite there and a super nice guy. We got to meet him a couple times when we went down there. But yeah, we always followed the Orioles. I've always followed them, and you can't help it not to because they're in the AL East, and they used to be big rivals with the Yankees.
Yeah, of course they had the great pitching of the 70s.
One of the best brawls in Yankee history, too.
That I don't know about.
Well, we'll talk about that another time.
All right, we got to run. Listen, it's good stuff. I mean, listen, we're on red button alert on both teams, but for me, it's a different kind of alert because I'm just I've thrown up my hands, and so that's mine. But yours is like you still have a lot of relevant games to play, and things.
Yeah, the Yankees got. I mean, the Red Sox are. The Yankees, Red Sox are going to play each other 3 games, and then they got Tampa, and they got the Blue Jays. And I believe the Orioles. I don't know. The Mariners. No, the Mets. The Mets. Yeah. So they do not have an easy next week or so. So
and the thing is, they're going to win the division. They'll probably have the second best record in the American League. The question is, how well will they be playing going in October? John, great job as always. Brian Shackman, John Senecal. You've been listening to Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports.